In today's episode, we'll be talking about how a doula can support you and have a positive impact on your fertility journey. Welcome to the Finally Get Pregnant Naturally podcast, the podcast helping women identify the real reasons you haven't conceived or stayed pregnant so you and your partner can finally grow the family of your dreams. I'm your host, Dr. Katie Wood. Let's dive in, shall we? In this episode, you'll discover what a doula does, how a doula can provide support when you're experiencing fertility struggles, as well as support from experiencing miscarriage or loss. And today I'll be talking with Kristin Revere, an elite certified birth doula, a newborn care specialist, a childbirth educator, and an elite certified postpartum doula as well. So welcome, Kristin. I'm really looking forward to this conversation today. This is actually a topic that we have not touched upon on the podcast yet. So I think that this could be a beneficial eye-opener for a lot of the listeners.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Dr. Wood. And yes, there are so many different types of doulas, but to define the profession, essentially, we are non-medical support through life transitions. There are fertility doulas. My agency and myself, we are not fertility doulas, but they can help with the process at fertility appointments, with navigating planning, that emotional support. And so that is a profession that is newer than, say, the birth doula role that I have or postpartum doulas, but it is certainly so important. In fact, during the pandemic, I helped facilitate fertility support groups with a mental health therapist. And it was so needed when everything shut down and fertility treatments halted and everything went virtual. And so I have experience with that support, but not supporting a full fertility journey. And then with birth doulas, many of our clients at Gold Coast Doulas are high risk for various reasons. Part of it is we specialize in overnight newborn care. So work with a lot of NICU babies and twin and triplet families. And some of them, of course, have gone through IVF and other fertility journeys of their own. And so we are able to support clients once they get pregnant and are released from their fertility center and working with maternal fetal medicine or an OB or nurse. We're able to support that process and in labor, of course, and with prenatal visits and giving them resources, whether it's fitness classes or prenatal massage, acupuncture, all of the experts in the birth and baby space, and then giving them evidence-based information to have informed conversations with their provider. And then in the postnatal phase, as I mentioned, we do overnight support. We also offer daytime support and can help families process the birth if it was very fast or a longer induction, or if there was trauma. Sometimes with multiples, there's a loss. And so I happen to be a loss certified doula and have other bereavement doulas on my team. So navigating early loss or infant demise is something that we are able to help with as an agency. And then certainly there are also death doulas that is their profession to support the other life transition process, whether it is an infant, a child, or an adult.
Yes, thank you so much for explaining that because I do think a lot of people are unaware of the availability of doula, and then to also understand all of the different avenues of support that is available to you. So I can speak from my personal experience. I had a doula at my first birth, and it was really, really helpful. I had actually learned about it in one of the pregnancy books I was reading, and I was like, okay, we're getting one. And we worked with her during my pregnancy. She was there for the birth. And then she also had, I think we had 3 postpartum visits, and she was also, I think it's an IBCLC, like a lactation consultant. So many doulas, I feel, are certified in so many different things. But
We
to
are.
to potentially curate that relationship in the preconception phase, the fertility phase, you really get to know and trust this person. They almost become a part of your family or like a really, really good friend. I still send Christmas cards to my doula, and ironically, she actually lives in the same town, small town that I live in. So like I've even run into her at the blueberry patch nearby. So they
Oh,
become like this extended part of your family. And then I just think that everything is such an intimate and sacred space, but to have someone at your birth, like when you're at literally, I think one of your most vulnerable stages in like a woman's life, and to actually really know that person and have a relationship with them, like especially if you're going through fertility struggles, they've already seen you at your highs and your lows, and they know what can motivate you and your preferred ways of support and things like that. So I just think it's a beautiful relationship to really cultivate if it's something that could benefit you on your fertility journey.
100%. And something that I feel is not talked enough about is secondary infertility. So I have worked with clients, and as you mentioned with your own doula experience, have a relationship with a couple after supporting them through that journey. And sometimes they would hire me or my agency for postpartum support. So that's even more extended as we work through the first year. But clients will call me and they had a plan. And similar to birth, sometimes things don't go according to plan and wanted their children to be a couple years apart. And then they hadn't had struggles with their first pregnancy and birth, and then ended up struggling with infertility. And so reaching out and asking for resources is certainly something that I have experienced with clients who either delayed or even trying to plan close in age babies, and that didn't happen for one reason or another. So that is also something that we can help them process emotionally and give resources.
Absolutely. And I think that that is so beneficial to have someone there that has the resources ready for you instead of trying to figure it out on Google by yourself. And there's just so many things that are coming up, and you don't know what to trust or what's right for you. And even just Facebook groups and social media and Instagram, you just see so many things. But to have someone that, oh, I have exactly what you need right here. And you know that you can trust that resource, like that can just take a whole nother level of pressure and frustration off of your shoulders.
Absolutely. Totally agree.
Yeah,
And oftentimes our family and friends are well meaning, but they can sometimes say the wrong things that can hurt and linger. So to have someone who is trained and able to support judgment free and knows even healthcare professionals sometimes say the wrong thing. And so we are able to, especially those of us that have had bereavement training, help navigate some of the emotional wounds that can happen with secondary infertility or with fertility journeys, and maybe ending up in a high risk position once conception occurs.
now I know, so you can work with couples who've experienced loss. What would that look like in that type of scenario? Like, what type of support are you able to provide?
So sometimes there's known loss or unknown loss. There could be medical conditions where a couple knows that baby may only live a matter of hours or weeks. And so they can choose if they want a doula to be there for the entire journey and at the birth. And so that would be a similar role to a birth doula. And other times, the couple just wants that support through pregnancy, wants those resources, or wants a follow up visit, but doesn't want the doula to actually attend the birth. And so it can vary based on what a client needs, and could just be some Zooms or phone calls, or could be more of those in person prenatal and postnatal visits that a birth doula offers in a package. And then we've had clients that have unknown loss. So we are there as their birth doula through a high risk pregnancy journey. And we are there for the labor. And sometimes there's unknown loss to support. So a doula who's equipped and has loss training can certainly help, along with, of course, the healthcare team that is trained and has resources to support unknown loss as well.
In one scenario that just popped in my mind, which I know is sadly very common, is couples who've experienced multiple miscarriages. And what can come up is, yes, they want to get pregnant, they want to have a baby, but there's so much fear surrounding being pregnant in and of itself. I've talked with women who have experienced so many losses that they don't even buy a car seat until their like baby's here. Like even at 39 weeks pregnant, they're just like, I can't bring myself to buy any baby related items. So I can imagine that having a doula and having that support system throughout your pregnancy would be priceless for someone who has gone through that experience.
Absolutely. And we certainly refer therapists who are trained in bereavement, trained in PTSD, or in any sort of postnatal mood disorders, if there is depression or, as you mentioned, anxiety during that pregnancy with the fear of losing this baby, even if they're told that they're having the perfect pregnancy, they're so healthy, there still is that fear. And I've had clients that had similar fear of getting attached and having a loss again and going through that. And so they don't have a baby shower. They aren't decorating the nursery. They're waiting to make sure. And sometimes they have that fear if there isn't as much movement. And I'm a big fan of the Count the Kicks app and understanding movement, especially if there was loss. But sometimes there's too much monitoring and yeah, that fear. And so at Gold Coast Doulas, we offer hypnobirthing, and that is
Mm.
very mind body focused. And there's a fear release component. So if there is a family who has had prior loss, some of those sessions and reducing anxiety, understanding what your body's going through, using breathing and affirmations, and having that class in addition to, or if they choose not to hire a doula, it's certainly a resource that I'm a big fan of.
Do you have any like success, quote unquote, success stories of maybe a client who had experienced a lot of loss? They were feeling really fearful, and then maybe they went through the hypnobirthing courses. Have you had clients be able to have a really, really positive birth experience after what they've gone through previously?
Absolutely. So I am not our hypnobirthing instructor, but I've heard stories from our instructor about success. And then I've personally worked with clients that have gone through our hypnobirthing class that had fear again and a lot of anxiety, that being in a 5-week class, having the support from other classmates and the instructor in being able to utilize those tools and getting out of that fight or flight state and getting into using calm breathing and having their partner be involved. I think no matter what childbirth class you take, having partner involvement and having them understand how to support, because partners also experience trauma or have fear of loss and they want to help. So giving them tools to help, like a doula or a hypnobirthing or other childbirth class that's comprehensive and involves a partner, are certainly some great ways to cope with the uncertainty.
I love that you brought that up, including the partners, because I feel like sadly they can sometimes get forgotten about, not on purpose, but sometimes that can happen. And when there is loss or multiple miscarriages and things like that, it is important to see how they're doing, check in with them, but then, yes, also giving them the tools so then they can support their partner as well. So I know earlier, correct me if I'm using the wrong words, I think you described a doula as a non-medical. provider. Is that the right
Yes.
terminology? Oh,
We
go ahead.
work in tandem with other healthcare professionals. So, obviously, pediatricians after a baby's born in the postpartum doula role. You mentioned that some doulas have additional trainings. They may be an IBCLC. We have some postpartum doulas on our team. One is an IBCLC, many are CLCs or CBS, so just under that designation. So they are able to do weighted feeds with baby, or if it's an IBCLC, help with tongue tie or mastitis or thrush issues, things that are out of the scope of a birth or postpartum doula, because that gets into medical.
Okay. And it sounded earlier you had mentioned if maybe you're working with someone who's having a lot of anxiety and things like that, you would refer them to a therapist. So it sounds like depending on the situation and the specific scenario to the client or the couple, you would then refer them out to resources that you have in areas that you might not be certified or qualified for.
Exactly, like acupuncture, a pelvic floor physical therapist, as you mentioned, a mental health therapist. And there is a lot of confusion on the role of a midwife and a doula. I get calls for my business where people want to have a home birth and they think that we can deliver a baby and have that expertise. And a midwife is trained to support the health of the mother and baby. We are there for emotional and physical support and informational.
Mhm.
We are not responsible for the health of the mother and or baby or babies.
Absolutely. And I think just having an outside perspective because someone may not realize, oh, I'm experienced maybe diastasis recti and I should be going to a pelvic floor therapist. So having that like extra set of eyes is beneficial in and of itself. And then of course you have the resources and the referrals that you could give people. So that's just it's just like a whole layer of things that you don't have to worry about no matter where you are in your journey. So I think that that's really nice. So I always love to end with a couple of action steps that you would like to leave with the listeners. So, of course, there's so many different scenarios that someone could maybe seek out doula support for, but what would be three action steps you would maybe give someone who is struggling on their fertility journey? Maybe they're considering IVF, because that's really the type of listeners that we have on this podcast. So, what would you recommend?
Certainly knowing your options. I co-authored a book called Supported Your Guide to Birth and Baby that gets into all of the options in pregnancy and early parenting, resources, things like apps, and does cover fertility, secondary infertility. So I often get calls from clients who know that they want to get pregnant or maybe struggling with fertility and want to start budgeting early or to know their options. So reading books, listening to podcasts like your own or my podcast, Ask the Doulas, that you have been on, and understanding that we're not meant to be in this journey alone, whether you hire an expert like a fertility doula or you find a support group like the one that I mentioned I led during the pandemic times. We don't have to carry all of this on our own. And it's good to either have families who are walking through a similar journey or have experts like therapists leading groups, but it is something that can be very isolating and can be overwhelming if you take on all of the burdens yourself.
Absolutely. Great, great action steps there. And maybe even just looking up, doing like a general search if you have any doulas local to you. And then of course there's even virtual doulas, I'm sure, if you're not able to find someone physically local to you.
Absolutely.
So I know you have a freebie for the listeners if you wanted to share a bit about that.
Yes. So I have a free Substack with amazing information. It's similar to a blog, and that is Ask the Doula, singular. And I know you've got show notes for your episodes, so we'll include a link there.
Absolutely. The link will be in the show notes and also let us know where the listeners can learn more from you, connect with you, and find you on the internet.
Excellent. So you can find Gold Coast Doulas at goldcoastdoulas.com. We are on Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest, all of the channels at Gold Coast Doulas. And I mentioned my podcast, Ask the Doulas, that you can find on any podcast player. And then my book, Supported Your Guide to Birth and Baby, can be found online or in select bookstores and is available on Audible and paperback, hardcover, as well as ebook version.
Amazing. I love it when they're available on Audible because it's just so easy to be able to do it like when you're in the car, when you're doing chores around the house. So that's really cool that it's available on there. So all the links for everything will be in the show notes, and go check out her podcast, Ask the Doulas. There's going to be an episode that I'm on there as well, and it's really all going to be about advanced maternal age and how to improve your egg quality. So be sure to check that out. And thank you so much for being on, Kristin, and just sharing your expertise, your passion, and really just helping everyone feel informed in terms of the options that they have available to them, depending on where they are in their journey.
It was my pleasure, and I look forward to chatting with you again.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Are you ready to finally discover why you haven't been able to get or stay pregnant? The Ultimate Fertility Blueprint is a quick, insightful quiz designed to reveal your overall capacity to conceive and help you discover potential root causes and areas to address to improve your fertility so you can finally get and stay pregnant. You'll find the link in the show notes. As a quick reminder and disclaimer, this podcast is for educational purposes only and is not a substitute for medical advice. Always consult your doctor or healthcare provider before starting any new supplement or protocol, especially if you're actively trying to conceive or undergoing treatment.